After the break, the two Londoners making waves at the World Cup for very different reasons. Join us in a few minutes. Tonight, the London Scouts out of harm's way. Hundreds of teenagers have been forced to leave their South Korean campsite to avoid a heat wave and a typhoon. The Scout leader tells us organisers are to blame.
We had reassurances that things were going to be put in place, but I'm afraid it was too little too late.
Also ahead, paying in person, that'll be extra. The unhappy drivers being charged more to pay at the machine. Plus, a tale of two players at the World Cup. One secures the quarter-final, the other a shocking sending off, and
wellies and perhaps slightly ill-advised white jeans can only mean one thing, that the weather's still a bit rubbish, but we live in hope, and some of that hope won't entirely be in vain for at least a few days this week.
Good evening. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime for hundreds of young scouts from across the capital, but sickness from a heat wave and an incoming typhoon have been disastrous for those at the World Jamboree in South Korea. Today, the chief executive of the UK Scouts, which is based in Chingford, told ITV News he feels disappointed and let down by the organisers since having to make the decision to pull out of the event after forking out over £1 million for hotel rooms. Meanwhile, for the London Scouts, there's relief. They're out of danger. Lauren Hall has our top story.
This isn't the Jamboree experience our Scouts were expecting when they travelled from London and the home counties to South Korea. Thousands of young people have been relocating to the capital city, Seoul, swapping their tents for hotel rooms. Many more will follow. At this earlier press conference, we heard details of an approaching typhoon, prompting the decision to close down the World Scout Jamboree. Our Scouts, including this unit from Hertfordshire, set off the week before last for what was supposed to be the ultimate camping trip.
Where are we going? South Korea!
But they were only at the campsite a few days. According to the head of UK Scouts, it was no longer safe to stay.
We are disappointed and feel let down by the organisers. We raised concerns repeatedly. We had reassurances that things were going to be put in place, but I'm afraid it was too little too late.
The UK contingent says it pulled out due to issues with sanitation and medical care, as well as a lack of food. There was also a heat wave causing concern.
You can't gamble with young people's lives. That's why we took the view that we should leave here for Seoul, and now we're putting on an engaging programme, working with other partners and ensuring those young people still have great memories.
The Jamboree's organisers were trying to improve conditions before the news of the tropical storm. They're now rolling out an emergency evacuation plan for the tens of thousands of Scouts from other countries who are still at the campsite. Back in Seoul, the British Embassy stepped in and is helping to organise a new programme of activities.
It is sad, I think, for some that we had to leave, because we obviously did sign up to be in a jamboree. But I think everyone does understand why we had to go.
I was sad to leave the jamboree, however, I think it is for the best because I wasn't feeling that great. And now we've got aircon, so I'm feeling much better now.
Their trip will certainly be memorable. The challenge now is to make sure it's for the right reasons. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Next, it's being described as a discriminatory and unfair decision. Tonight, Sutton Council is dealing with anger for charging people who pay for their parking with cash around 30% more than those who pay with an app. It is so divisive, the government has even stepped in to try to get Sutton Council to change its mind on the policy over fears it discriminates against those who are older or vulnerable. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Paying to park used to be simple. The only challenge was having the right change. But in the South London borough of Sutton, putting money in a machine now comes with a surcharge. An hour's parking in Wallington costs £2 if drivers use an app, but £3 if they pay at the machine.
I don't have a phone that has an app on it anyway.
It's unfair, but I'm desperate, so I need it. So I need to pay.
When you're old, you know, you don't know what apps are and all that.
Do you ever think about paying with cash? I used to, I don't very often now. Even my wife asked me to set it up when she goes out in the car, so now we generally use the app all the time.
Councils in London began charging for parking in 1958 when the first meters appeared.
This is primarily to relieve congestion and to share out fairly the limited curb space in central London.
65 years on, the parking meter has given way to smart parking, with most councils relying on apps like Ringo. Pay and display machines might generate income, but Sutton Council regards them as a drain on resources. Partly for security reasons, 2 people are needed to empty them, and that comes at a cost. But last year, Sutton's pay and display parking spaces raised more than £500,000.
They're making a lot of money from parking. In fact, Sutton has one of the highest parking charges, not just in London, but anywhere in the country. And that's not to add on all the extra charges from various parking zones they've introduced. So the council's making money from parking, and there's no need for them to have this disparity.
The charity Age UK claimed older drivers would be hit the hardest, and the motoring organisation, the RAC, described Sutton's policy as discriminatory. The government's asked you to reconsider, will you?
No, because what we've got to do is to be fair on Sutton's residents, and we've got to make sure that we spend Sutton's residents' money in the right way. And that is by doing things, let's say, in the modern way, in the right way. You know, more and more people don't carry cash.
The prospect of a cashless society doesn't appeal to Kevin and Patricia.
Our grandchildren, they all use the apps, don't they? They say to me, Granddad, get an Uber app. I said, what's an app? I don't, you know, that means you've got to give them your bank account, innit? Numbers. And we're very anti that because I just think that's where half the fraud comes from.
For now, Sutton will keep its pay and display machines, but at least half a dozen London boroughs have gone a step further and don't accept cash at all. Simon Harris, ITV News, Carshalton.
A police officer has been jailed for 3 years for causing the death of a woman he ran over in his police car in Brixton. PC Nadeem Patel was driving at more than 83 miles per hour before his car hit Shantae Daniel Foles 2 years ago. Patel pleaded guilty to causing her death by dangerous driving. A judge has called for the Met to review how fast vehicles can go in emergency call-outs. A popular flower seller in Islington was killed by his late girlfriend's son, who blamed him for her suicide, a court has heard. Tony Eastlake was stabbed from behind. His late partner's son, James Pepiat, is on trial accused of his murder. He denies the charge. And higher mortgage rates are forcing people out of London due to rising costs. According to new analysis by estate agent network Countrywide, Londoners are looking for smaller properties in more affordable areas, with almost 40% of those leaving the capital in the first half of this year buying a 1- or 2-bed home. The family of a 7-year-old who was killed in a house fire in Deptford in 2018 are using the 5th anniversary of his death to appeal for help finding those responsible. Joel Uri was upstairs at the family home when a burning item was pushed through the letterbox. Antoine Allen is here with me now. Antoine, take us back to that night. What happened?
Well, Duncan, this is a tragic story of a much-loved son and brother that lost his life, and that family that's still awaiting justice. As you said, 5 years ago today, police state a burning item was placed through the letterbox at their home in Adolphus Street in Deptford. Joel's mother and sister managed to jump from the first floor and survive, but sadly, Joel died at the scene. Now, Joel's mother's issued this plea, this statement. We have now spent 5 long years without Joel, and time does not make it easier. Nothing will ever bring him back, but we are desperate to find out who carried out this deadly crime. Now, that statement has been issued because it's 5 years on. They're asking for any witnesses to come forward and pass on the information to the police.
Antoine, thank you very much for that update. Thank you. England are through to the World Cup quarter-finals after a tense penalty shootout against Nigeria, and the European champions secured their spot in the last 8 thanks to Chloe Kelly. However, one of our other top players will miss the next match. With all the action, here's Mahathir Pasha.
London girl Chloe Kelly has a knack for delivering.
Kelly smashes England through!
This time, securing the Lionesses a spot in the Women's Football World Cup quarter-finals. Euphoria for fans in Brisbane, but also for those at home in London, as England grasped victory. It was a game with not many goals, but packed with drama. The Nigerians dominated, a show of strength from Ashley Plumptree early on. 30 minutes in, and it looked like England secured a penalty, only for it to be taken back, courtesy of VAR. All eyes were on young star Lauren James, who struggled to outmaneuver an impressive man-marking effort from the African side. A moment of frustration then perhaps that led to James stepping on a Nigerian player, ultimately getting herself sent off and leaving the Lionesses exposed. Having lost a player at the 83rd minute, England did well to block the Nigerian offensive and keep the score at 0-0 during extra time. But the job was about to get a lot harder for goalkeeper Mary Earps as the match went to penalties. For the fans in London, the agony continued as the Lionesses blasted their first penalty wide. Luckily, the Nigerians followed suit. After 4 penalties each way, it fell on 25-year-old Chloe Kelly from Hanwell in West London to seal the deal. And that she did. Joy for the English players, but some tricky questions for the manager to answer.
It's a game where the emotions are really high, where the intensity is so high, and it's just a split second that things happen. And then she got that red card. I haven't seen it back yet. But those things sometimes, that's also experience.
Back in Stamford Bridge, fans are still recovering from the drama.
The Lionesses bringing it home? Yes, they're bringing it home. Fire on my chest, yes.
I was literally shaking because it was such a dramatic game.
Oh my God, relief once again. I've got faith in the girls. They've done it once again. Just absolute faith in the ladies.
England will be playing either Jamaica or Colombia in the quarter-finals next Saturday. Lioness fans will be hoping the celebrations continue.
It was quite the tackle, Mahathir. What does it mean for Lauren?
Yeah, well, Duncan, you saw in the report the nature of that tackle. What it does mean when you get a red card in these games is there's an automatic ban for the next game. So that means Lauren won't be competing in the quarterfinals. What's left to adjudicate on by FIFA is whether or not what she did was violent in nature. If they deem it was to be violent, that means she'll be banned for the next 3 games, which would mean she won't be playing any game left this tournament.
So a tense wait for her then, Mahathir. Thank you very much. Still to come on the programme, we meet the actor turned carer making waves at the Edinburgh Fringe, and...
Hello! Never mind the slightly rubbish summer we've had. It's only 139 days until Christmas, and I'll be finding out how you can grow some of your very own Christmas dinner.
But first, the train disruption that caused chaos for those heading to Brighton Pride this weekend will continue for most of the week. The ongoing driver overtime ban will affect rail services in the capital for 6 days. Kath O'Pata is at Farringdon Station for us. Kath, what impact is this having?
Yes, Duncan, like you said, there's been lots of strike action regarding pay and overtime. So it wouldn't surprise viewers to hear that there's another one coming up. This time for 6 days, starting today. It's affecting trains from a number of stations, including this one. Lines such as the Great Northern, Gatwick Express, Southern Rail will all be affected. Now, of course, this isn't an exhaustive list, and as ever, the advice is to check before you travel and leave plenty of time before you do so. Now, as you can imagine, this does little to appease commuters who are travelling in and out of London, but even the ones who are affected seem to have some sympathy with the railway workers.
It's a complex issue, isn't it? I don't think pay has kept up with inflation at all. I think a lot of families are being penalised for it, and I think train drivers have got families too.
I think they should give them what they want.
Upset for the workers, but also upset for the people affected by the train strikes.
I will feel it because I'm going on holiday soon.
Yes, lots of mixed feelings there. I suppose the silver lining is that not all stations are affected, even though it's a major strike. But if you are travelling on a line which is, you can expect a maximum of 2, sometimes 1 train every hour.
Kath at Farringdon, thank you. Next, how new robot technology developed here in the capital could transform early cancer diagnosis. Lung cancer is the most common cause of cancer death in the UK, and more than 2/3 are diagnosed late. But scientists think that could be improved using a new technique being trialled by the Royal Brompton and St Bart's Hospital. It uses 3D imaging to access hard-to-reach areas and could mean less risk for patients. Daniel Henry has been to check it out.
Come on through.
Welcome to the Royal Brompton Hospital, where Pallav is using a robot to look inside Susan's lungs.
You can see how much small measurements, just tiny angles, changes it. So without this tech, we wouldn't be able to access that. And she's only got half a lung, so doing a biopsy through the outside of the scan is more risky, because if she gets a punctured lung, she'd be in trouble.
The new kit means they can go further and faster than ever before.
So that process took just under an hour, and already Susan is on her way out. How are you feeling?
Yeah, considering I feel okay. My throat's a bit rough, but that's to be expected.
What difference do you think this is going to make to you?
It means I'm going to know a bit more, and hopefully with that knowledge, then I'll be able to be treated, rather than just sort of waiting to see what's going to happen. Waiting's very stressful.
What was it like speaking to Pallav afterwards and him being able to say, look, you know, this is what we've seen, this is what we found?
Yeah, very reassuring. He said it went well, they managed to get some samples, and I have an appointment in a couple of weeks to find out what they are. And we can take it from there. It's better than not knowing.
The robot used by Pallav is popular in the States, where it's used to take tiny bits of lung tissue to be checked for cancer before they grow.
The problem with lung cancer is that quite often you do a scan on a patient, you'll find a spot, but you don't know what that spot is until you've biopsied it. Biopsies were challenging, so the standard dogma, even worldwide, is that you repeat the scan again in 3 months, then 9 months after that, and then maybe a year after that.
It could have grown, right?
Because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for growth, because some of these will not grow, in which case you're not doing anything about them. But if they grow, then you intervene. But with this technology, maybe we don't need to wait.
The future for this piece of technology depends on the results of a study, which will tell clinicians how it could help lung cancer patients. But if Susan's anything to go by, the results are already pretty clear. Daniel Henry, ITV News.
Next tonight, from racing trains to the aftermath of 9/11, few subjects are off limits to musical makeovers, and now we have one inspired by the pandemic, which promises to celebrate love and community.
It's been a hot second, you should all feel threatened, 'cause we are first to be reckoned.
2020, the musical was written and created by a West End performer from Surrey who knows a thing or two about the upheaval from that time. Welcome to you, Natasha. Let's go back to 2020 then. You're having the best time. You're at the Savoy starring in 9 to 5, probably a dream role. Then what happens?
Well, like everyone else in theatre and in other jobs, I lost my job. And we didn't know how long it was all going to last. So I wanted to make myself useful. I put something out on Facebook Marketplace to see if anyone needed help with childcare. And then I got a call from a care agency. And they said, it's not for children, it's for elderly people. How do you feel about that? And I said, absolutely, let's go. So I'm still working for them today.
You're still doing it?
I'm still doing it today.
So during that time, though, obviously very rewarding work, working with old people, but I imagine you had your creative juices still flowing. So did the ideas start building then?
It was actually a light bulb moment for me. It was about 7 months into the pandemic, and I was doing personal care for one of my lovely ladies. And I just had this moment where I was thinking, wow, the juxtaposition from where I've come from, the glamour of the West End to the rawness of what I'm doing now is so different. And also the message and the moral of what I learnt throughout that time from that job. I thought it was really important and it needed to be told. So
tell us how that's turned itself into 2020, the musical, which is on up in Edinburgh at the Fringe. What's in it? What's the storyline?
OK, so it's very much my story,
but
I also have friends that I've spoken to about their endeavours too, that went to work in different supermarkets. And the main moral of the show is about the fact that care of the elderly changed my life for the better. It changed my outlook on life, my perspective. And I think the pandemic, although everyone reflects on it negatively, if we take the message from what we got from it, we all know now people live in the moment a lot more and they don't take things for granted. And for me personally, it's definitely made me do that, live in the here and now. We're always thinking about the next thing, the next career goal. And that's what that's done for me, and that's the moral of the message of the musical.
So you found the heart. Is it possible, though, with a subject like that to find fun and there are lighter moments in it?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a very uplifting. I think what I'm really excited about in Edinburgh is I think we're going to surprise people. I don't think it's going to be what they expect it to be. It's a very uplifting story. And there's so much love in it, but there's also a lot of laughter. There's a lot of satirical moments. We've got Boris Johnson in the show. So there's government decisions. And the year itself was an absolute roller coaster. We were on highs and then we were in lows. And that's the show.
What are your hopes and ambitions for this show then?
We've got quite a few programmers coming in, and some reviewers as well. So first thing, I'm just excited to hear what people think. I want people's honest feedback because we're by no means finished. So I'm really excited to continue to develop the show. But we want to go hopefully to an off-West End venue in London in 2024, fingers crossed.
Oh, fingers crossed for you. Have you given yourself the biggest numbers, the best parts? You've got to if you're writing it yourself.
Well, I'm playing me. I'm not called Natasha in the show, but I am playing myself. So that is one of the leads, but there are lots of other leads too. One
of the leads. It's probably the biggest lead, right? The leadiest lead. Natasha, wonderful to speak to you. Good luck with the show up at Edinburgh, and I hope it comes down to the West End.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, the ITV News continues at 6:30. Here's a look ahead now with Lucrezia.
England are through to the World Cup quarter-finals, but it took some penalty heroics to see the Lionesses scrape past Nigeria to secure the win after a nail-biting tie. Also, the first asylum seekers board the controversial Bibi Stockholm barge in Dorset. David Hunter and what his wife said when she begged him to kill her at their retirement home in Cyprus. And inside the lab working to fight future pandemics, preparing for what is being called Disease X. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
OK, let's get a reminder of our headlines now. Hundreds of young scouts from across the capital are now out of harm's way after having to leave the World Jamboree in South Korea due to a heat wave and a typhoon heading their way. Today, the chief executive of the UK Scouts, which is based in Chingford, told us he feels disappointed and let down by the organisers. And drivers in Sutton will pay more for parking if they use cash instead of a mobile app. Using the council-owned car parks costs £3 an hour at a machine, but just £2 an hour via a phone. Now, this cannot be good news. Sally has got her wellies out. Tell me why, Sally.
Do you know what, Duncan? I think I might have slightly overdone it given the niceness of this path, but I'm in a happy place. It's National Allotment Week and I'm on a beautiful allotment in Mudchute. Look, this is Paula's. Look at her beautiful runner beans. She's got courgettes, these lovely cosmos. Look at these tomatoes. I mean, it puts mine to shame. I know it's not a competition, but mine don't look anything like that. We've got cucumbers, brassicas, this beautiful sage. Oh, smells divine. And look at this table here. I'm going to sneak in front. Paula, this is incredible. Can you just hold that for me? This isn't yours. This is Masheed's from next door. Oh, look at that whopper. Wow, that's going to win a competition. Let me take that off you, Paula. Congratulations. Thanks. How long did you wait on a waiting list for this allotment, Paula?
12 years for this allotment.
12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that is dedication. Was it worth the 12-year wait?
Absolutely. For my mental health, my physical well-being, putting something on the table every day, and financially, it's about £1,800 a year that I save.
Wow, gosh, that is a lot. And you've got some produce here. I know you said you had some kimchi, which I could try. I've never had it before. So here we go.
Small amount.
Thank you. Sorry, everyone. Ooh, that's gorgeous. I can see what all the chat is about. Let's come over here now to Terry. Terry, you're a volunteer for the National Allotment Society.
Yep.
On average, how long is the wait in London for people for an allotment?
Now about 4 to 5 years. Some are even longer, some are a bit less. 4 to 5 years.
It's worth it though, isn't it?
It's worth it.
It's a bit like the lottery. You've got to be in it to win it.
Get on the waiting list.
Get on the list. All right.
Complain to the council.
You heard it from him, not me. OK, right, Paula, let's come back to you. Tell us what you do on Christmas Day. This is dreamy, you'll love this.
So every Christmas Day we come down here with a glass of champagne and we pick our parsnips.
Oh, I mean, I just love it. You must look forward to that all year.
Yeah, it's such a special time. It's such a privilege to have an allotment, and we just see in Christmas Day and celebrate.
Oh, that's dreamy. Now, 139 days till Christmas. Can people still grow stuff for Christmas dinner?
Absolutely. Potatoes in bags.
Yeah.
Charlotte is a great variety. Yeah. Brussels sprouts, plug plants, kale, plug plants. And if you do it quickly, autumn carrots you can plant now.
So there you go. And you can do these on a balcony if you've got that, or if you haven't, maybe some sage on the windowsill. There's still chance to get stuck in, ready for the big day. Here's the weather.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. Well, look at this photo. This little fox with its tongue up against the window, desperate to know where the nice weather is, or maybe just where the food is. Well, it's a bit disappointing tomorrow. It's going to turn cloudier and a bit drizzly, a bit colder as well under all that cloud. But as we get towards the middle part of the week, particularly Thursday, it gets sunnier and warmer. Let's take a look at the air mass chart, and you can see that the jet stream is responsible. So as we go through the week, it starts to buckle, and that allows that warm air to come up from the south. The only bad news is, I'm afraid, it doesn't last. As we get towards the weekend, the jet stream allows that low pressure to return. It does become a little bit more changeable, but we'll let you know about that nearer the time. As for this evening, some clear spells out here. It's rather nice. We'll have a few clear spells overnight as well, maybe just getting a bit cloudier from the west by dawn. Temperatures dropping down to the low teens, so not too chilly. But when you wake up tomorrow morning, the best of any weather in the east for longest. It is going to get cloudier as we go through the day, as that cloud makes its way from west to east, turning thicker, and that drizzle coming in as well. So probably worth having an umbrella if you get caught in any of that drizzle. Fairly light winds, but the temperature's a bit subdued, so highs of 17 to 20 tomorrow. And then into the evening, there is the risk of a maybe slightly heavier burst of rain here or there. So again, umbrella to hand just in case if you're heading out. But as we head into Wednesday, things start to improve. Probably the best of any sunshine in the middle part of the day at the moment. The temperature's climbing, and by Thursday we could reach the dizzy heights maybe of 27 degrees before it starts to fade away as we go through Friday and into the weekend. But that's it for now from us all here at this beautiful allotment at Mudchute. Cheerio.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Much better. Thank you very much, Sally. And that is all we have time for in London. But Lucrezia is here next with the national news. From all of us, have a lovely evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.